Hello, everyone, and welcome to this semester. My name is Mithun Gautam. I know that's an unusual name, and so I'd like to help you with my pronunciation. Mithun is pronounced very similar to the mitten that you wear in your hand. Gotham is pronounced like the city in Batman. I prefer to be called by my first name. I am an assistant teaching professor in the MMA department at Illinois Tech, and I've been teaching computational mechanics, dynamics, system analysis and controls. And of late, I've started teaching MechLab 1. So all of these courses, they deal with really the understanding of the real world. In 350, we looked at how complicated systems that don't have analytical solutions, how do you really approach them using engineering tools, numerical methods, where you can find solutions that are useful. In dynamics, we looked at how systems and objects interact with the real world and change based on their constraints and how do they move. While in 443 system analysis and controls, we looked at how we can understand the behavior of these systems and have some mathematical expressions with which we can then characterize these systems and then control it to do what we want. In 319, it was mostly related to how the real experimental outcomes of the real world differ from the analytical expressions that we have for their behavior and how we can understand why these differences exist. Last semester, I also taught the iPro. It's related to the Formula SAE competition, which, if you know, and I'll actually speak about this a little bit, it deals with developing a race car for a student motorsport competition. And here we looked at uh, developing a battery system from first principles, modeling the thermal behavior, developing safety systems. And in fact, this project won the award at the Innovation Day, I think 2 weeks ago. And I'm a big proponent of project-based learning. I also have an offering next semester related to integrated drone systems engineering, which I think will be really cool, where you learn the real reasons for why you're learning the theory in a way that is directly related to the outcomes as an engineer. All of this doesn't really tell you who I am, so a little bit about myself. I did my undergrad back in India in production engineering, and during that period of time, I fell in love with, student motorsports and project-based learning. So there's me at the Baja SAE competition. This was an off-road race car development project. Um, we went straight to UK after that, which was a very ambitious undertaking. We developed this Formula SAE race car. And that's me over here back when I was quite young. um, this was a very influential experience for me, and I learned how much of an impact your engineering lessons actually have in developing systems that uh, relate to these definitive projects and competitions where you have quantitative results from the decisions that you actually make. Based on all of these experiences, I went on to work with Honda R&D, where I developed exhaust systems from all the way from conception of a new design, from your mind to actually building the motorcycle, having the exhausts comply with the local emissions requirements. Um, Developed a race engine for a competition that was in India. And I was also responsible for in-house prototyping of exhaust systems. In this period, I decided to do a master's in design engineering. This was at while I was simultaneously employed by Honda. In that period, I worked on the same motorcycle that I had helped conceive, where previously it was a rear-engined motorcycle, and there was a space in between over here. I decided to add a battery and control system architecture here so that the front wheel can be driven by a motor. And this Frankenstein design is what I built in-house and tested, and it was a lot of fun. In that period, I was very motivated to work on advanced combustion, and so I had this idea for a homogeneous charge compression ignition engine, which is essentially the idea relates to having diesel level performance and efficiency while remaining quite efficient and clean. Well, I should say efficiency comes with diesel performance, but gasoline engines are more clean. And so I wanted to combine both of them in this new technology. But at the forefront of that research was America. And so I moved here in 2018 to do my master's in mechanical engineering, during which period of time I was a TA and I kind of fell in love with teaching. And to pursue that, I decided to do a PhD in a more generic domain, which didn't directly correlate with one particular technology. And so I worked on optimization in something that I felt was more relevant for the future. And so optimization of robotic fleets for manufacturing and so on. Um, a little bit more about myself. I love motorcycles. This is me in the Himalayas. I love all things automotive. So these are some of the cars I've had. I have an electric car that has been a great lesson in managing range anxiety. I also have this wagon that I sold recently. Yeah, these are the cars that I have currently. This BMW in particular is one of my favorites. It has a 258,000-mile engine right now, and it still runs like a top. So I'm very proud of what I've been doing with this vehicle. So with that, let's get back to the learning aspect. Most importantly, learning takes effort. If something comes to you very easily, it's quite likely that you're already very familiar with it. And if you're really advancing your ability in any skill, it does take effort, and that is going to be uncomfortable. And so when you do feel that discomfort with actually solving a new problem or thinking about a new approach to solving a problem, you should sit with that discomfort and work your way through, because that is where the learning actually happens. So it's very important to be cognizant of this fact. And if you simply try to read through the material in this course and not actually put pen to paper or, I don't know, coding, and actually do something yourself and experience that discomfort, you will not actually be learning. So that's something really important to keep in mind. Um, the other thing is that as humans, we are very efficient, and that efficiency is not just in your physical body, but also in your mind. And if you learn something, um, your mind has a way of removing things that you don't need if you don't keep revising it. For example, I'm pretty certain you don't remember exactly what you had for breakfast 7 days ago, or maybe even 3 days ago, because that information is not that relevant and you haven't tried to retrieve that information. And so anything that you don't keep trying to retrieve, your mind, being as efficient as it is, will try to discard that information. And so this here is modeled as the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, where let's say that you exit the classroom or you exit this video recording and you retain 100% of everything that was taught to you, which is unlikely, but let's say it's 100%. Within the very first day, you would have forgotten about 50% of it if you try to actually evaluate yourself honestly. But when you revise the material on the first day, then let's say you bring it back up to 100%. In 5 days, you would have forgotten maybe only about 35% instead of previously the 50%. And now on the fifth day, if you revise again, you can see that the amount that you forget, it keeps reducing. And so this is just the way that our mind works and the way that learning is, stored in our long-term memory. And so we have to be aware of this when we are learning. And so in this course, since it's entirely online, it's very easy for you to think that all that you have to do is submit your assignments and your quizzes and you're done. But in reality, why are we going through this process? It is so that we learn a skill and we become a better engineer. And to keep that as your end goal and find yourself a job that really is satisfying for you, you need to be able to import all of this knowledge into your long term memory. And for that, having a plan to revise regularly is a good idea. Okay, so keep this in mind. The other thing to discuss is that we are aware as students, as professors, as engineers in the workforce that AI is prevalent and it is going to stay with us, and it is contributing a lot to the efficiency and the way that we are able to be more productive. But what you have to keep in mind is that AI should not be replacing you. And a lot of studies have found that the use of AI, it is directly correlated with cognitive offloading, which is that it reduces that discomfort in the actual learning aspect. If you can just uh, submit a question from my quiz and an AI provides you with the answer, then what really is the need for you to learn all of this? And the thing is that even though AI will exist, AI only works in the domains that it has been trained in. And humans, on the other hand, have this really uncanny ability of bringing in ideas from different fields, even coming up with entirely new, probably nonsensical ideas from which we can have progress. And to be able to do that, we need to really understand how the world works and how we as engineers can manipulate it to have desirable outcomes, whether it's profits for a company, whether it is some humanitarian objective. We need to be able to come up with new ideas. And to be able to come up with new ideas, we need strong foundations. And these foundations, they don't come easily. You need to actually work through, spend time, repeatedly do the same thing so that you have an understanding of how dynamics or system analysis or control, all of these things, how do they actually work? You need to be intimately familiar. And these AI tools, they are taking that away from you. You're doing a disservice by offloading that discomfort of learning to AI. Because in the end, the assessments that exist in this course are only meant to be a guide to for yourself to know how you're doing. And we will discuss at length about the actual assessments and so on. But for now, know that you would be doing yourself a disservice if you just offload these thinking aspects to AI. Okay, you need to build that confidence yourself, and that confidence only comes from doing the work yourself. With that, let's get to the material of this course. We will be using Canvas to interface throughout the semester. When you open the Dynamics Canvas page and the home page, you will find the information about the classes. As we discussed, it is going to be asynchronous because of the many requests I received for people who are doing internships or not in Chicago or on different time zone and so on and cannot make the class timings. So I will be recording video lectures and sharing them with you. When you're emailing me, please use this in your subject header, simply because I teach multiple courses and sometimes it's difficult for me to know which question and which homework are you referring to without knowing what class is about. In general, I try to be as quick as possible, but if by chance I have dismissed your email without realizing it and I don't respond, please do send me a follow-up. I do not mind at all. Office hours will be virtual over Zoom, again, for the stated reason that people are not in Chicago sometimes. And so please schedule using Calendly. So I have availabilities on Thursdays and Fridays. You can schedule them as early as 7 a.m. Um, so that if you are at a workplace, you can have a session with me before your work starts, all the way up to 12:40 p.m. If you want to do it during your lunch break. In general, quizzes and assignments will be due on Sunday night. So do make use of office hours before that to at least go over the content that you're unfamiliar with. If you do pick a time, you will be able to provide some your details, provide which course is about, and if you were to schedule the event, you will then be provided with a Zoom link. So there'll be a calendar invitation in your email address. In that calendar invitation, you will have a Zoom link with which we will meet. Um, Make sure that you have notifications on. I will be announcing things as shown here. Um, so this one I sent it sufficiently early in case people are not willing to accept this kind of an offering. I know that some people have quit. Currently, I believe there are only 5 students. Um, Everything to do with assessments will show up here. So right now it's just quizzes. In time you will have 3 or 4 assignments as well. So they will also show up here. Um, the first one is a survey, which is simply you providing me some information about yourself and your interests and so on. As I state over here, it is free marks. This quiz is due by Sunday night. So this is going to be based on the material that we covered this week. Make sure that you go over the material before you start the quiz because only one attempt is permitted. I know that some of you might want to use AI, and so I highly recommend that you don't do that. But of course, I understand that grades are important and they, have an effect on your final outcome from your degree and so on, and maybe your job search. But I think it's important for you to learn the material before you attempt the quizzes. Also, some of the quiz questions I have it handwritten so that you cannot directly ask AI. This is just my request. I can't really control you, or at least if you're using AI, use it in a way that only assists your learning and doesn't replace your learning. In the modules, you will find all of the material. So right now, there's only the course description. Soon, you will have another module here which says lectures. Let's first go over the discussions. uh, you can ask any question to your entire class, including myself, using this space here. So if you click reply, you will have the option of posting anonymously or with your name. You can ask any question, you can complain, you can provide suggestions, feedback, and the whole class will be able to see that here. Okay. Your grades show up here. Unfortunately, you do not see where you stand in the class, or you don't see the average. So in essence, you're only working to improve yourself, and you're not comparing yourself with the rest of the class, which is also how the assessment will be. I will not be curving it. In general, I've seen that students achieve 100%, and I don't think that curving will be able to improve anyone's grade. Okay, so going over the course description, we are going to be studying all of these. I'm not going to go over it in detail right now. In the course of this semester, you will become familiar with all of these. But in general, you are looking at taking a problem, converting its physical description to a model of particles or rigid bodies, and in this way, understanding how the system will, or this object will behave. By doing this, you'll be able to analyze the motion of a particle or a system of particles or rigid body and make use of the different relationships and constraints that exist so that you can uh, predict how this object will behave. We'll also look at 1, 2, and 3 dimensions involving both translation, rotation, and the combination of those in rigid bodies. And you look at how force, work, and impulse, all of these come together. That's a brief description. We'll go over this in detail. This is a textbook that I will be using. It is recommended. I have modeled the course around the content of that textbook, though it is not a requirement, and everything that you have in the video lectures will be sufficient. I will not be posting any course notes that are not part of the video lectures. So the reason for choosing to not post the course notes is that as part of your active learning in this kind of a virtual environment, by having you write down your own notes so that you can use them when you're solving the quizzes and the assignments is a part of active learning, which will contribute to the overall outcome of this course. Okay, so if there's anything that was not in the textbook, I will add them. Well, I guess I can remove this from the description because I'm not really going to do much that's outside of the textbook. Okay, we've discussed this. Do activate your Canvas notifications. I might post announcements regularly. Also activate your email or Outlook notifications in case I email you about a submission that is unclear to me. It's your responsibility to make sure that you meet the deadlines of the course. No extension will be provided unless you provide some extenuating circumstances in advance. Um, in terms of grading policy, all the submissions will be online. 35% of it will be from the quizzes. So these quizzes are um, multiple choice and numerical entry quizzes where you will be doing mostly practice related to material that you've covered, we've covered in the course video lectures. And then assignments will contribute to 65% of the final grade. So this is going to be a little more on the lines of solving longer problems, and I will be looking at your method and so on. While in quizzes, I'm only looking at your final answer. Okay. Uh, I promise you that you will have at least 1 week to turn in the solution. I'm choosing that the submission deadline is Sunday midnight so that it doesn't really affect your work hours in case you're working. Submissions must be your own work. If you're copying work from another student or AI or online sources such as Chegg, this is academic misconduct. If it is found to be true, then this is a serious offense. So far, I've not had to deal with this, but regardless of whether it's summer or the usual course semesters of fall and spring, this will be a serious offense. In general, you want to show the process that you use. I see that a lot of students like to skip steps. It does make it look cool in the sense that you could do it in your mind or entirely in your calculator. But the problem is that if there's a mistake there, I don't have the opportunity to provide you with partial marks. In general, I'm very liberal in the grading. However, you do want to provide me with the opportunity to provide you grades. And so it is important that you show the steps that you used. And I need to understand that even if you made a mistake in your calculation, which is unimportant, if I see that the process that you have followed is correct, you will receive full marks. Okay, and so keep that in mind. Grading scale is going to be absolute. There's no curving because that means that if there's one person who's doing incredibly well, everyone's grade is dependent on that. It's my job as an instructor to pose questions that are correlated with this material that I've been taught. And so I will be keeping that as my responsibility, and your responsibility is to learn. Now, grading errors do happen, and if you do find that there was a mistake, let me know. And if you ask me to do this a week after marks have been issued, then I wouldn't be doing that. Actually, I guess I need to remove this as well. The rest of it is boilerplate. I do want to keep in mind that even though there's online, there are discussions, and you want to maintain a supportive learning community. And so be respectful. If there was something that was said that was insensitive, you want to follow these processes to alleviate the discomfort that might have occurred from my or anyone else's actions. I acknowledge that generative AI exists and will be used by most. Now, you will be expected to complete core components using your own methods, uh, produce your own work, and make use of your mind to be able to cover the assessment requirements. All of this here is to say, be a good person. Don't harass or sexually harass or discriminate against anyone in the classroom or anyone anywhere. If you do have requirements for disability resources, I have always worked with them. They're great. I will always accommodate to the best of my ability any request that you make. If you are struggling with the course material, you have these opportunities for yourself to um, make use of the resources at Illinois Tech. So this here is Student Health and Wellness Center in case you are struggling with your mental health or medical issues. There's academic coaching. So this here is a set of resources that you can use to help yourself succeed.